So before I even started making any videos, I was thinking about the core concepts that I really want to get across in my work. And one of the main ones is that the world is editable. You know, you can change the world if you want to. Another is that everything is interconnected, right? There's connections everywhere you look, hidden connections. We live in systems, right, where one thing affects another in ways you can't ever really fully anticipate or understand. So the world is editable. Everything is interconnected. I've always adhered to an idea that I kind of summarize as make hell fun, right? Make hell fun. There's a lot of information embedded in not very many words, but essentially, given any situation, even the worst situation you could ever possibly imagine, you can reorient your thinking and engineer systems of joy. I think that's the thesis. Maybe it's it's a core belief of mine that is true. A faith of mine, I would say. There's not a ton of evidence to support it necessarily, but I believe it very, very deeply. So am I doing a good job of embedding those ideas into my videos? Maybe? I don't think so. Not as good as I could be. And maybe too late even? Like, the world is changing too fast for these ideas to even matter. I feel like I'm etching them into stone for a civilization that's not going to exist anymore. That's kind of fucking dreary. It's a little bleak outlook on the world, but when I was a 16-year-old kid getting into photography, I remember having the thought. You know, I was in elementary school when 9/11 happened, but if I was in the city and I was an adult, the way that I would have grappled with that situation, and I do mean grapple, is taking photos of it. And I thought to myself, if I ever have to live through the apocalypse, if I ever have to live through the end of the world, I want to do it looking through the lens of my camera. Which is an interesting thought, because you're not taking photos for anyone. It's the end of the world, right? You're not going to go in any gallery. No one's going to see the photos that evaporate on your SD card after the nuclear bomb hits. But for me, looking through the lens is a way of pushing myself into the world and also grappling with the realities of it. So for better or worse, my way of dealing with the world is looking through a lens at it, documenting, taking photos, even if it's not for anyone, even if it's not even for me, even if no one will see them. It's my mechanism of dealing with things. It's my little book of notes. Where's that? You know what I mean? To fly through the air and have envelop, we're talking about technologies that are magics. What gets lost in the transition from magic to science? A theater where magic workers maintain the anthropological matrix by performing it into existence. As Westerners, we have a huge blind spot to this type of magic work, but boy, are politicians wielding it like a motherfucker. They know the ability to perform an anthropological matrix into existence, right? The performance aspect of magic making, the wearing a mask and dancing around and bending reality to your will by showing how malleable it is. The defenders of the status quo have put a lot of energy into keeping that magic hidden and shunned, right? Except for in recent years, some people have begun to pick it up. I think that there's some understanding now that if you get the world to repeat your name over and over, that you gain some unseen power, right? Even if it's not good, even if they're saying you're not, getting the world to repeat your name seems to be the goal of a lot of people. So a lot of people have realized the power that at any cost, make people say your name at any cost. That's a real magic, a dark magic that is being wielded. And it works surprisingly well. surprisingly effective. And I also see my allies give into it, right? Like, give into a troll that clearly just wants you to say their name and direct your attention towards them and like charge them up with energy. And you have to be very careful, like, how you intentionally direct your energy, your attention, your time, your resources, right? You can get caught up in a rabbit hole of giving into a troll, or the worst nightmare for that troll is for you to ignore them and go about your day and do the things you were going to do anyway. I mean, weren't we all trolls when we were teenagers? Did we not all have like a teenage phase where we went and trolled people online? Is that just me? Like, we all understand the psyche, right? Like, you're trying to get a rise out of somebody. The whole goal was to get them to respond. So if they don't respond, you're gonna move, like, you get bored. I think it's a hard thing for people. People really want to fight back. They want to feel righteous. They want justice. And sometimes you don't get justice. Sometimes you have to let someone say something awful to you. And the true move is to just ignore them and not give them anything and let that bounce off you. I feel like a kindergarten teacher saying that. Like, this is wisdom that we were given very, very young, but it's hard to remember. Maybe this isn't wisdom. Maybe I was blessed to be given this wisdom when I was young, but here it is.